Welcome friends to the second day of our 3-day program in Corfu, Greece. Today, as you already know, is Guru Purnima Day, a day we celebrate in India to salute and pay respect to all the Gurus who have come on this planet and helped mankind reach their goals of having finished their journey in this world can go back home to their true home, Sachkhand. It is a day when we celebrate all the Gurus who have come. And as I have told you earlier, the true Guru is our own self. It's our own sound current within, which is the resonance of our own self, which is our true Guru. Since we do not hear that sound, we do not see that Guru, therefore a Guru appears outside in our life as a human being and becomes like us, so that he can help us go back to the true Guru within us. As you sit here today, I see that same Guru in all of you. There is no exception. There is no one who doesn't have it. So I myself salute the Guru in all of you today on Guru Purnima Day. We have spent yesterday talking about the spiritual path as taught by the saints and the method of practicing self-realization through the process of Surt Shabd Yoga, the yoga of this attention and the sound. That you can achieve yoga, you can have its union with your true self, your higher self, by the process of putting your attention on the inner sound which comes as a resonance from your own self. The true self is nothing but total consciousness. Totality of consciousness, which means there is no division in it, there is only one. That in itself creates this whole show within itself, and that show then goes on developing into so many different levels of experiences, including the level where we are sitting here right now. This is all happening within one consciousness. We have the ability as a human being to reach that level and discover who we really are. That we are part of that totality, that we were never separated, that this separation is an illusion, that this separation and feeling that we are so many here and we are all separate beings, we look so different from each other, is part of the play, is part of the setup. But sitting here, when we take this separation as reality, it's very difficult to know how we could all be one and how we have become so many faces and each one looks like everyone has its own consciousness, everybody has his own life, everybody has own destiny. How did we become so different from each other? This is a big question people ask, that if we are so many, who is the one? Now the one self is only one self, even at this time. If you think about it, so many people are sitting in this room, but only one is seeing all the rest. It looks like it's the individual self, everyone is that. Everyone is that, but nobody is seeing from two places. Everyone is seeing from one place. And when you go higher, you discover that it was only one that saw everything, including the millions and trillions that are around us. The same one, which is still the self in each of us, which we feel is a self in ourself, that inside us and there are others around. The fact is there's nobody else around. They are all part of the creation of the same self. This does not mean that this self is different from the total self. The total self is the same as this self, except we are in a different level of awareness, different level of consciousness to have a different experience. All these levels of consciousness have been created just for creating different experiences, because consciousness by its very nature, by its very name, is something that is capable of being conscious of anything it wants to be. Therefore, the possibilities of creating different experiences is unlimited. And those unlimited experiences are being experienced right now. Of course, one of the most fundamental experiences that we are having right now is the experience of time. That time is real. There is no way our mind can understand that time is not real. The time that we feel is being experienced by us seems to be going on forever. We cannot think outside of it. This is the biggest trap. The trap, time means that it is a trap in which we cannot possibly, with the best use of our mind, get out of it. Because supposing we say, one day, time began, then what does our mind think of what happened before that? There's no way you can't think that there was no time. It was still time, because if there was no time before that, you wouldn't say one day or in the beginning. When we use these words in the beginning, at one time, that means we are taking time for granted as the only reality. This is a very significant point. Even today, the physicists who are examining and astronomers who are looking at the skies are saying this is a creation of the Big Bang. That 14.5 billion years ago, a Big Bang took place, and that is expanding till now, and this expanding world, we are sitting in that expanding world. What was before the Big Bang? They have no answer. But they have one problem, which they are facing today. The problem is, if there was no time and space, where did the Big Bang take place? So that is why now they are revising their whole concept. Because they cannot think, no mind can possibly think that there is a state where there is no time and no space and we all exist there. So that is why they are now saying that there must have been another Big Bang before that to create the condition for this Big Bang to take place. And now that they found some black holes in the universe, they think the black hole, when it bursts and explodes, that must be the Big Bang. And already they have noticed 2 black holes in our own galaxy and several black holes in the total observable universe today. So that is why they have now come to the conclusion that this must have been an incessant activity of black holes, of whole universes being created, being absorbed, and then being recreated and absorbed. The very thing that the mystics said several thousand years ago, that there has been a dissolution of this creation, and again there's new creation coming up, again dissolution has taken place. Something written in very old scriptures as old as 7000 BC, according to some people. So that is why, in a way, knowledge through examination of the empirical universe outside is coming very close to knowledge that was expressed by mystics and saints long ago. Now, what is time that we are trapped in? Supposing there was no time, think of it for a moment, that there is no time. Do you know karma will disappear? This creation as we see it will disappear. Everything that we have ever known as real will disappear. With one little change, if there is no time, everything will disappear. Time is translated into Hindi or Sanskrit as Kal. Kal means time. So when we talk of Kal as the real trap for us, we are really talking of time as the real trap for us. Kal and time are the same thing. Time was created at a level below the true home of ours and the different experiences we could have without time, and we descended into an area of time, and once we got trapped in time, the whole cycle of our traps, subsequent traps here, is because of the trap of time. So that's why they call time or Kal the biggest negative power. It is that negative power of time that created all negative powers. And time instilled itself in each one of us who are a living being. A living being means we have a soul, which is part of that consciousness, which is that consciousness operating as a unit. Time got attached to each one of them and is now called the mind. Mind is no more than the same time attached to our soul. It's the mind that creates time and space for us here. And all we examine here is through the mind. So the trap of the mind or trap of time is so big that we cannot get out of it. And what we try to do in order to escape from this, when we feel suffering is real here, or when we are unhappy here, we try to escape by trying to use our mind to escape. Never works. Mind is the prison. How can we use the prison to get out of prison? Mind is the one who controls the prison. We have to have somebody outside the prison to take us out of the prison. So this imprisonment in time can only be taken out by somebody who is beyond time. When we talk of perfect living masters, the definition of a perfect living master is one who has experienced and is still experiencing while amongst us an experience beyond time. and experience beyond the mind. Such a person who can be a human being just like us. Indeed, he should be a person just like us, so we can befriend that person. Because it's friendship that's going to be making us co-travelers together. Merely hearing a sermon or a speech from somebody does not help. Most of the time we hear nice speeches and then we just forget about them. They come from one ear and they go out from another ear as soon as we leave. They're very nice speech. If you ask people who hear these sermons, what did you hear today? It was very good. What did he say? You don't remember exactly, but he did say something very nice. That's the way we treat speeches and sermons. Therefore, if you are a friend of a person who has that awareness, friendship takes you back. That is why they say that a perfect living master becomes a true friend of ours. And in friendship, we walk together. He never says, I am going to go ahead of you, I am sitting somewhere else, come with me. He takes the position that he is exactly where you are and he travels with you, and as you go on, you discover he already knows where we are going. This is a discovery together as friends. So, a perfect living master comes exactly like us. If he came as too different from us, then we would not be able to become friends. The difference will be too much. I sometimes give the example, supposing a master were to come into this room and fly on the sky here. It will be unusual. And what will be our reaction to a man who's flying in the sky in this room, and we are just waiting to see what's happening? Most of us will think there must be a trick. There must be some rope or string somewhere, and we'll try to look for where this magic is taking place from. Some of them who see there's no string might even faint. Faint-hearted will faint at seeing how could this person be up in the air. Nobody will be in love with that person. We could even worship that person. We could even admire that person, but nobody could love that person. Supposing he falls down while trying to do this, so many of us will run to help him and friendship can be developed. That is why the ordinariness of a perfect living master is necessary for friendship. And as friends, the travel takes place to higher levels of consciousness, just like any two friends can travel very nicely anywhere else here. That is why it's so important to understand the role of a perfect living master as a human being is just because he is come here to be friendly, to be able to take you as a friend, as a co-traveler, as going together. There's an old story told of a king. We have a lot of stories in India about kings and benevolent kings and malevolent kings, so it's a nice way to start a story. There was a king and he was a very generous, good king, benevolent king, and he wanted to make sure everybody is happy in his kingdom. So one day he disguised himself as an ordinary person and he went around looking for people how they were living. He walked into the forest and saw a poor man making logs out of trees, cutting the trees, taking little logs on his back and selling it in the market, making a little money and feeding his family. He told that man, look, I can take you to the king's palace and get you something. He said, don't talk nonsense with me. Nobody can go anywhere near the king's palace. He says, okay, I can try. I have some connection with the guard who sits outside the king's palace. So he brings this man. He says, you are taking a big risk. The poor man says, you are taking a big risk going near the palace. We don't go near the palace like that. But when he goes to the guard, he gives the sign to the guard not to tell who he is. And he tells the guard, can we just peep inside where the king lives? The guard gives permission and this man is surprised. He says, you have so much connection here that you can go and look inside the palace. So he goes inside, then he comes out and he goes back. He cuts logs with the man, poor man, becomes his friend. They go every day and sell the wood in the marketplace. The next day he takes him that I know somebody else. So I know the minister inside. So now gradually he is building up faith that maybe he has connection. And ultimately he goes right inside and tells the minister, don't tell him who I am, but he says, we just want to look at the king from a distance. He says, oh no, it's very difficult, but okay, I will allow. Eventually he gets permission and goes in and the throne is empty. So he says, I'm going to look at the king. And this man is very excited. And the man who is accompanying him sits on the throne. He says, I am the king. He says, why didn't you tell me first? He says, I told you I know the God, you didn't believe me. How will you believe I was the king? The masters come like that to us. If they told us when they are here in human being who they really are, we would never believe. It's impossible for us to believe this. But when they take us stage by stage, at every stage we realize more and more who they are. At the end we find there was no difference between them, the Satpurush, who we say the creator of all, and ourselves. That we are all part of the same one. So it's a very interesting journey where we, because of our minds, cannot believe. Our mind, which is a unit of time, that creates the experience of time, that creates, as I said, experience of past, present and future, which don't exist, but the mind creates it for us. That mind itself creates doubt. It's part of its function. Because if you don't have doubt or skepticism, you will not have any curiosity to learn. So mind has been put these faculties inside it to create doubt. But when it creates doubt, it creates also fear. So doubt and fear come together with the mind. Every time we say we know something, the mind can think and say, I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm just believing. Maybe it's blind faith. Maybe it's just not correct belief. The mind will create doubts on anything. Therefore, when the mind creates doubt, then we get afraid. If there was no doubt, we wouldn't be afraid. So this doubt and fear comes because of the mind. Supposing you are able to separate the mind from yourself, doubt and fear both disappear in your life. It's a great life to live where there is no doubt and no fear. Meditation, in a proper way, done under guidance, leads to a state where you can see your mind functioning independently of you. You become a spectator of your mind. You are able to sit and watch your mind thinking and doing all the things it does. Today, we don't see it because in this physical body, we think the mind and the self is the same. We think that the soul and mind are the same. When I first went to the United States, people would ask me questions, we want to know more about this mind, soul, whatever you call it, as if it is the same thing. They even said like that. So this definition of soul being separate from mind was not known to people. It's still not known to people. They identify themselves as the mind. Because they are thinking, it's a process through which we begin to believe that the soul is not making the mind think. The mind is thinking, that's ourself. So we make the mind ourself. And then we live a life of doubt and fear all our life. If we were able to separate these two, you'd find that the doubt and fear is being created by a machine attached to us. And we are pure consciousness that gives power to that mind. We are the conscious power that empowers the mind like it empowers everything else. This practice of being able to see the mind is very useful in meditation. I want you to have a little practice of this right now, today, so that this will help you a lot in meditation in the future. That you should be able to sit and see the mind at work. It's very easy to see it because the mind is always working. What is its work? Thinking. It will think all the time. All you have to do is to watch and see what thoughts come in front of you. You are seeing your mind. You don't become the thoughts. You sit as a spectator of thoughts. When you allow the mind to think whatever it likes, you will wonder how bizarre it is and what kind of thoughts come to you. And then you realize that this is a machine that you have, which you ought to keep under control. And you should make the mind think what you want it to think, not what the mind wants to think. This is possible through this little practice of watching your own mind. If you are ready, how many of you are ready for this meditation? Okay, let's do it now. Go back to yesterday's position of considering this body as your house. And you are living on the 6th floor of this house in this beautiful room which you decorated yesterday. And sit in the center on a beautiful chair which you picked up yesterday. Sit on that chair and just don't do anything except watch what your thoughts are. Thoughts can be in words, thoughts can be in pictures. Do not interfere. Just watch what comes in front of you and let it pass. Let it keep on going. Don't do anything. Don't interfere, don't think, don't make a comment. Just watch your thoughts. How many of you could successfully separate yourself and see the thoughts of the mind? Very good. That's a very good number for first attempt. How many of you felt that the thoughts that were coming in front of you were very strange and not what you like? That's correct. Now we'll repeat the same exercise and force the mind to think only what you want, not what the mind wants. This time the mind thought what it wanted to, which is this random thinking, how the mind guides us. This time you pick up either your Simran, your words, or any other words and say, mind, only think these words and nothing else, and see if you can control that. If you can control that, you are a big step forward in meditation. If the mind tries to think of anything else while you are directing, stop it right there and tell it to think the word that you have in your mind. Now you are going to use the same mind to tell this to the mind, but you will practice that by telling the mind using its own words, that to stick to these words, you are going to control the mind. Remember, it says, whoever can control the mind can control the whole universe. So this is just one of the small steps in trying to control the mind. So go back to the same place in your head and watch it back, put the mind thinking and say, think these words and think this picture, think this image of my master or of my beloved, and only think of that picture and those words and nothing else. When it tries to deviate, push it back to that. So close your eyes and begin. How many of you could succeed in directing the mind to only think and imagine what you wanted to do? Very good progress. If you can do that, you will be successful in meditation. You will be not only successful in meditation, you will be successful in life. It's such an important thing that you now run the mind instead of mind running your life. You run your life using the mind for the purpose for which it was given to you. The mind was given to you so you could use it for thinking what you want it to think. But you didn't allow this because you allowed the mind to tell you all the time what to do. Now you'll tell the mind what to do. But how will you know what to do? If you have to tell the mind what to do, how will you know what to tell the mind? Now for that purpose, we have been gifted with another faculty called intuition. Intuition comes from the soul, not from the mind. Reasoning comes from the mind. Thinking comes from the mind. Intuition comes from our soul directly. So intuitive knowledge is very different from mental knowledge. If you want to have spiritual knowledge, it is intuitive knowledge. Intuition is not learnt like language is learnt. Intuition exists in all of us automatically. The question is whether we use it or not. Most of the time we don't use it. Most of the time, even if we have a gut feeling, we have an intuitive feeling, something tells us this is it, we override it by thinking about it and saying, no, that's just it doesn't make logic, doesn't make sense, and we throw it away. Later on we regret why we didn't act upon our intuition. That gut feeling was right. Most of the time in your life you will find that your gut feeling is always right. And the thinking makes it sometimes overturned and you don't act upon it. The mind has taken so much control over us that it does not allow our intuitive experience, intuitive knowledge to function in daily life. It can be used every day. In all our events, we can use intuitive knowledge and override the mental thoughts that come. Then what do we do? If we have the intuitive knowledge, this is what we should do. Tell the mind to do that. No matter how much the mind resists, follow that and your life will change. It will change instantly the moment you start using it. This gut feeling that comes, what is the difference between how that knowledge comes and the knowledge comes from the mind? The mind's knowledge always takes time. Every thought takes time. Even the smallest thought takes time. But the intuitive knowledge never takes time. It's so sudden, it just occurs to you, this is what I should be doing. And there's no thinking, there's no reasoning behind it. It's they say, because of this, I am going to do this, because of this, that's all mind. But when it suddenly comes to you, now, how does it come? It is there in all of us. We don't use it. We are using mental knowledge all the time, and therefore we are suppressed our own intuitive self, our own intuitive knowledge. So if you want to be spiritual, then you use spiritual knowledge which is coming from intuition. Now, this distinction is very sharp between intuition and mental knowledge, that mental knowledge comes by thinking about something. And intuitive knowledge comes without thinking. It comes suddenly and you say, I know this. If you start looking for these, then it will come automatically. In order to make sure you understand intuitive knowledge, it is accompanied by other evidence in life, and that is called a coincidence. When you have an intuitive feeling, this is true, you're driving on the road and a sign comes, nothing to do with that what you think, but one word matches what your intuitive knowledge is. How could that be? How could that coincidence happen? You open a book suddenly and it's saying the same thing in one small sentence or part of a sentence that your intuitive knowledge told you. So there is not only an inner intuitive knowledge, there is a corresponding coincidence happening outside to confirm that this knowledge was correct. So that is why this intuitive knowledge combined with coincidences in life, they will help you guide in a life which will make you very happy and make you spiritual. Otherwise, we live mental lives all the time. We think so hard that without thinking we can't do anything. Of course you should think. You should use the thinking machine, the mind, but to carry out what the intuition has told you. The mind will tell you something, is a very good device for thinking, reasoning, communicating, reading, understanding languages. It's very good. Use it for that purpose, for it was made. It was not made to guide you how to live your life. What was supposed to guide you to give your life for your own intuitive knowledge inside. So intuition should be the secret through which you learn what to do and how to lead your life inside and outside, both. And the reasoning power of the mind should be used to implement what you decide intuitively. You can't practice intuition, that I am going to learn intuition. One man came to me, a friend of mine, and he said, you know, you taught a very good lesson that we should follow intuition. Now I have practiced and learned how to use intuition. I said, how did you do that? He said, I am going to demonstrate to you. I said, now for example, I want to decide whether I want to go to this place or that place, place A or place B. Then I use my intuition, A, there. I said, what was that in between? That was the thinking process to decide A. That's not intuition. There is no time. Intuitive knowledge does not come like that. That's all mind. We are so used to living with the mind. We have made mind our master. It was supposed to be our slave. It was supposed to be our servant. It was supposed to serve us. That's why it was given to us. And we've turned the slave into our own master. There was a old story of Aladdin. I don't know, you call it Aladdin. In America, they call it Aladdin. But there's an old story of one young boy called Aladdin. And he found a lamp. And when he rubbed the lamp, a big genie appeared. And he was frightened, seeing such a big genie. So the genie said, I am your slave. Command what I shall do. The little fellow was surprised that such a big genie is his slave. So he commanded him, go and build a house for me. In a few seconds, the house was built. The command now, he said, okay, put a bridge on the river. He began to give commands, but the genie was so efficient, he would carry out the command very quickly. Ultimately, the little boy had no more commands to give. So he said, genie, do what you like. So genie said, come now with me, we'll do this. He'd come and we'll do this. So the little boy became a slave of the genie because he had no more commands to give to the genie. Then one day a friend of this boy came. He says, you were such a happy little child. What has happened to you? He says, I found a very big genie called a slave, but I have no commands to give it. It's so fast. Now he'll become my master. I'm going where he takes me. He said, I'll give you a hint how to handle this. When the genie says, what's your command? Don't say do what you like. Say, come and bring a large pole. Bring a wooden pole from the forest and dig it into my room. So when the genie brings the big pole and digs in your room, say, now genie, go up and down this pole till I give you the next command. Put the genie on that. And when you need to use the genie, give it a command. It will do that, then say come back up and down on the pole. Saints have described this example to show that our mind is supposed to be the genie. It's powerful. It can do so much. But control it with a little pole in your head and make it repeat the words of Simran. That's keep it repeating till you want to think of something else. When you want to think of something else, use your mind, think of what you want to do with, give him direction, and when not needed, put him back on the pole to go on repeating the words inside, day and night. It is not necessary to use the repetition of the mantra or Simran only during meditation. Use it all the time to control this mind of yours, which is supposed to be your slave. So this story illustrates how this mind, by giving it so much power by us, nobody has given it power. The mind is dead without the power of the soul. The mind has no power if it's not conscious, and consciousness is the soul that makes it alive. We have given it too much power. We should use it. And use it. It's a very useful thing. If you use it, it's a terrible master when you are being used by it. And when the mind tells you what to do, it puts fear into you, puts doubts into you every time. Supposing a person comes to me and says, I know this very clearly. I say, let's think about it a little more. I can think for 10 minutes and he'll say, now I'm not so sure. The mind is like that. You can put doubt so quickly into the mind, and the mind creates doubt for us all the time and messes up our life. Our life could be very different right here. In spite of all the kind of karma of up and down, our attitude would be very different towards life if we merely use the mind and not allow the mind to use us. So therefore, I'm very happy that so many of you could do this and be able to use your mind and put it to use like it is supposed to be, and not run with the thinking that's the only thing you have, that you are a thinking machine yourself. You are not. You are the power that makes thinking possible. So retain your power. There is another face of the mind that affects us very badly. We have the face of the mind called ego. What is ego? Ego means I. I love this, I want this, I do this. That I and me and mine is the front face of this mind. And this is coming in the way all the time. When the mind wants to assert itself, it brings this ego. When people say something bad to us, the soul is not affected by this. What is the soul's knowledge is that we are all trapped. We are all co-prisoners. We have all tried to get out of this prison. That the soul's attitude, we understand compassion is natural. Love and compassion is natural to soul, because love is not a function of the mind, it's a function of the soul. Like intuition is not a function of the mind, it's a function of the soul. But when the mind tries to do things which we do not like, by somebody says using abusive language against us, we react. That attack is not on the soul, attack is on our ego. We rebound. The mind wants to fight because the ego is built like that. Ego separates us. Supposing we had no ego, we'd immediately feel we are all together. It's the ego that makes us separate, and ego is the face of the mind. That is why ego does not help us. On the other hand, there's another problem, because situated as we are in this physical body, we have an individual feeling that we are individuals, we have to do things ourselves, and the only way to do is through the ego. That I have to do this, it is my job, my responsibility, so I have to do this. I have to make a living, I have to work for my job, I have to take care of my family, I have to take care of this business. All involves ego. So ego has to be used all the time by us to survive in this current situation. How do we match this problem of the ego coming in the way of meditation, ego coming in the way of our discovering our unity, and yet ego being used for our daily life? The mystics explain in a very good way that if you have a perfect living master as your friend, and you know he has the power to control from within you what's happening, that he is the real person, is not outside, is not the image of a being. The being outside is temporary, like you, your body is temporary. We die, the master dies, everything dies here. So therefore, the real master that doesn't die is inside us. And that master is inside, operating through an outside because we don't see the inside. When we see the inside, we don't need to see the outside. Of course, we love the outside even more, but the need stops and it's only friendship that is left. Now, when that master inside is functioning and we know it, and that's the knowledge that's very useful after finding a perfect living master or being found by a perfect living master. If we do not use our ego, but put it on the master inside, that he is doing this everything is being done by him, your ego does not function the same way. And master takes responsibility. It's just a change in the way of living. If you say all things are being done by my master inside, and I have just to enjoy the ride. I have come into the body, he's giving me a ride, he's taken control. When you allow that to happen, the consciousness itself tells you that the master is working inside. Things will smoothen out outside in your life like never before, because then the ego is not coming in the way. And also, when you meet people and somebody is trying to hurt you, the master is watching that, you smile. The reaction is totally different. If your ego is in front, it will fight back. It'll feel offended. So this is a very good device, that if you are initiated by a perfect living master, the master sitting inside you, then you can put everything on the master and take your ego out of it. And it works equally well. Nobody can see this. Nobody can see you, only you know it. But it's working to change your attitude towards life and towards people altogether. It's a very wonderful way to experience it. Now here I'd like to say a few words about what is initiation. When I say if you are initiated by a perfect living master. What is initiation? Initiation is not a way of teaching anything. Initiation is not telling you what the mantra is. I have researched and found all the mantras of all the gurus, including my own, which were ever uttered by anybody, are all today on YouTube, are all today in the books printed. So if the telling of words was initiation, go and read it. There is no problem, you will be initiated. Initiation does not mean the transfer of any words of mantra. Initiation does not mean to teach you how to meditate. The books are there telling you how to meditate. Instructions are there. I keep on doing these workshops telling you how to meditate. Initiation is not teaching how to meditate. Initiation is something very different. Initiation is a perfect living master, functioning as a human being like us, totally like us, with an awareness of all the levels of consciousness, right, the level of totality of consciousness, while he is working with us. Such a person is a perfect living master. When he comes and says, I accept you, and we'll go together to our home, that's initiation. When that kind of a master accepts us and says, yes, you are on my list as a co-traveler, we are going back home together, and he accepts you, that is initiation. The rest is only a formality to tell you how to practice this, how to do this, to satisfy our mind. Our mind is a stumbling block, and therefore most of the instructions given to us are to satisfy the mind, to keep it aside. Okay, you do this. Mind, keep on meditating. Mind, do this thing. What takes us really back to our true home is the love and devotion that is built between the disciple and the master. And the master's love is so unconditional. It pulls us because it is totally different from any love we have experienced with people over here. The difference is it's unconditional, it's non-judgmental. A master never judges us. He never says, if you are a good being, then only I will do this for you. He never judges. He knows we are all in a trap. He knows we are all trapped into our karma. We are trapped into all these situations. We are trapped with our mind. We are trapped in these bodies. He knows that. He is full of compassion for us. He is not judging what we are doing here. He knows this is just a show over here. He is not judging our act upon this. He is judging whether our inside soul is yearning for going back home or not. If he is yearning to go back home and he is come to take you back, he will take you back. Initiation is a moment in our life when he accepts that I'll take you home. I'll tell you a very interesting incident, true incident. With this great master, there was a very poor man in India living in a village who suddenly felt that great master was calling him. He had an image in his dream of great master with his beard and this face, and he said, I know he's calling me and I have to go. So he felt so strongly, he had no money to travel. And from that long distance, he traveled on foot every day, carrying a little bag of his basic necessities. On his bag he was carrying and going and thinking, Master, thank you for calling me, thank you for calling me. He kept on traveling and in very ragged shape. He arrived at the dera and Master was coming out of the door. We were just behind the Master, I and some others. And we stood next to the Master when we saw this man, poor man. He threw his bag, ran, almost leapt over and put his head on the feet of this Master and said, Master, thank you for calling me, please initiate me. What he said was, give me Naam, please initiate me. And Master said, what, once again? This is the first time he's meeting him. He says, what, once again? That's what the Master said. Then he explained, oh, you were initiated when you left your village. That's why I called you and accepted you. You mean the formality? I'll do it tomorrow morning. I'll tell you the words and tell you how to listen to the sound. Therefore, you have to understand that initiation is not teaching a method of meditation. It's not even giving a mantra. Initiation is such a being, a person whose consciousness at all times is aware of all levels of consciousness and is functioning from all levels for all beings on those levels. And such a person says, yes, I accept you, we'll go back home. That's initiation. When one is initiated, that being, that human being becomes a permanent friend of yours. He does not become only a teacher. There are so many teachers. A perfect living master is not a teacher. There are so many teachers teaching you the same thing. He is going to be a friend and a co-traveler to your true home back. That is why understand the importance of initiation. In my own life, I have found there is no greater event in life than initiation by a perfect living master. It changes everything. What are the big changes that take place? The first change is you have a friend forever. Somebody who loves you unconditionally. Somebody with whom you can share anything. Somebody who will give you the best advice you can get. A friend who's a real friend in need. You get that kind of a friend in life who will never leave you, even if you try to leave him. He's that kind of a friend who will not leave you even if you want to leave him. So you have to be careful about that part. Therefore, such a friend does many other things. Biggest thing he does, which we do not know here, but we can discover through meditation, is that the law of karma, which requires that so much of our karma goes into a reserve, which we call sinchit karma. There is a karma that we inherit, with which we are born. That's called pralabdha or destiny. We all come with a destiny that these events will take place in our life, and they do take place. In between, we are given small freedoms to use our so-called free will and make our own decisions, which create new karma. The first one is called pralabdha. This new karma is called kariman. And then, since all the karma we create, which is amazing, we create so much karma in one life that cannot all be fitted into another life. So most of it goes into a reserve called sinchit. We have collected so much reserve. The negative power is very happy. Kal is very happy that you collected so much karma. He can arrange thousands of new incarnations, even if you have no more karma ever again. When initiation by a perfect living master takes place, the entire sinchit karma is burnt off and finished. There is no sinchit karma left at all. Very big change. What is the effect of that? Supposing your progress in this life is not enough to make you go to higher levels at all, just to have some experiences but not take you up, and you have to come back again. One life. The next life can only be based upon the karma of this one. I'm talking of some technical stuff about karma, but if those of you who know about it will understand that the karma that we create picks up elements from so many past lives. It is not from one life. It's picked up elements from many lives in the past and they are brought into one life and we make a life. Some of the events taking place may not be immediate past life, maybe the 100th life back, 10th life back. So all those assembled to make one life. Now, when there is no Sanchit karma, there is nothing to pick up from anywhere else except one life. Next life is always better, more conducive to meditation and more likely that you will go back home. A person once asked me, is it true that once you are initiated by a perfect living master, you cannot have more than 4 lives? I said, that is what is said by all the masters, including my own master. He said, if you are initiated, the maximum you can have is 4 lives. I'll tell you a personal story of my father, who was also initiated by great master. Once he could not attend a satsang, a discourse, and he heard the great master saying that once initiated, you cannot have more than 4 human lives. Each life will be much better than the others, and you have to go back to your home within these lives, 4 lives. So he, in the evening, met the great master and said, Master, I understand you said that a person initiated cannot have more than 4 lives. Is it true? Great master said, Lek Raj, that was my father's name. Why are you worried? This is your last life. He said, no, I am not worried about last life. I am worried, supposing I want a 5th life. You are barring me from that. He said, why would you like a 5th life? He said, I understand sometimes masters come back again and again. And if you want to come back again, don't leave me back up there. So there was a little joke about it. Then great master explained, those who are initiated by a perfect living master and carry out the instructions of the master regarding meditation and so on, this is their last life. They don't come again. It's not that you all have to have 4 lives. Those who cannot carry out the instructions of the master and the mind prevails so many times that they are unable to do what is being told to them, they may come for one more lifetime. Only those who give up the whole path altogether and say, no, this is not right, and the mind completely takes over, they may come for the 3rd life. Only those who criticize, become crucifiers of masters, who kill the masters, have to come in the 4th life. 4th life is not for everybody, he explains. So that is why when we hear of this talk of 4 lives, it does not mean that everybody has to go through 4 lives after initiation. Most of us, if we just follow the instructions of the master, can go back to our true home in the same life. If we don't go to a true home, we can go halfway or part of the way. The way we go from this physical plane into other experiences is the same for all of us. Above this physical plane is an astral plane. An astral plane is much richer, much bigger, and people who have experiences, they write to me how beautiful that experience is, that everything is more beautiful there, radiant there, are shining there, and they can see it in meditation. But when we want to die, when we die either through meditation or really in physically death, we go into that state. That state has an overlap with this state. The astral and physical states have an overlap period where the overlap gives us access to both sides. Many people who die with a lot of desires left for things in this life, they stay in the overlap for a long time trying to go exactly where they wanted to be. So we say there's a haunted place, there are ghosts here, there are all kinds of, we call bhoot and pret. They distinguish 2 kinds of ghosts. Bhoot is one that runs around all over, chasing all over the world because it couldn't find what it wanted to find when it in the physical body. And in the disembodied state, that spirit in the overlap, physico-astral overlap, is running around trying to locate what it wanted. The pret is one who is stuck because of an event that took place, like a murder or a suicide or something, and that soul gets stuck there in the body, in the astral body, gets stuck there for the remaining period of the notional life. Each of us come with a notional life in our destiny that we supposing we have to live to age 80. And a person at age 40 commits suicide. For the remaining 40 years, he's stuck in the very place where he was, the disembodied state, in a ghost. And we start saying there's a haunted house, and we can hear these persons. And they try to contact us through various activities there, making noises, trying to show footsteps, whatever they can do, little bit, opening doors, opening lights. So these kind of experiences are for 40 years for such a person because of the notional life having been cut down to a physical life of 40 years instead of 80. So this overlap of the astral and physical is a very huge area. And there are so many souls in their astral selves roaming around there because of their desires and attachments for worldly things. But those who have not desires for worldly things but want to go back home, they don't come in that area. They jump to the astral stage, which itself is so beautiful and so attractive. Many of the souls are actually waiting there and saying, let's see this more before we go back. And masters have allowed them. Okay, you wanted to have a good time in the physical, you want to have a good time in the astral, okay, take your time. They are in no hurry. We are in a hurry. Masters are in no hurry. They know that once they have initiated the person, he'll be taken back to home and they'll stay with that person at any stage, at all stages. So that is why there are so many levels through which many souls, but they never come back more than 4 times no matter what. They can have time on the way. So these are so many experiences, and we can have access to all glimpses of those experiences while we are still in the physical body here. So that we don't have to believe somebody else. You don't have to believe my words, what I am telling you, that these things exist. I want you to verify for yourself. And all of you can verify, because nothing I am saying is outside of you. It is all inside your head, all inside that little chamber from where we started. The 10th door through which you look inside. All the things that you look inside, including the examination of the room, is being done from the 10th door, not from these eyes, not from anything on the body. So if you pursue that, you can fly into the sky outside, you can fly up into the higher regions if you like, and maybe we'll have some experience of that also before I leave tomorrow. That you can have these experiences inside and have glimpses. You don't want to leave the body, you still have notional time over here, but you want to have the experience of what is inside, what you to expect when you physically die. You can see right now what you will expect when you physically die, and fear of death will go away forever from you. So this is all possible through meditation. So meditation is a very, very wonderful thing in so many ways for so many of us who think differently. It is not necessary to just follow in line with one line. Whatever your own line of thinking is, you can go on that and examine what's the truth about it. What have you believed? Is it true? You can verify. I personally feel only verified truth is one which you should accept. Don't reject the rest because you haven't known. Don't reject somebody says, I have seen something, maybe you have seen, I haven't. When I see it, I'll also believe it. But I don't disbelieve just because you have seen it, I have not seen. Our tendency is, if we have not seen, we say nobody else has seen. Now that's not fair to anybody, because somebody else has seen something. You say also, I'll also try and see, tell me how. And if he can tell you how, examine and test it out, whether you can see all those things. Now, sometimes an impression is given that the only way to know if you are making progress inside is to tell what you have seen inside. That's not true. And I'll tell you a very true story about my master's master. His name was Baba Sawan Singh. He was called the Great Master. I was very lucky to be initiated by him. He was initiated by Baba Jaimal Singh, a follower of Swamiji from Agra. And Baba Jaimal Singh, when he was not a guru, not a master, but just a disciple of Swamiji of Agra, he once wrote a letter to his master, Swamiji, because there was some distance between where he lived in Punjab and Agra is in another state, some distance. In those days was a lot of distance. He wrote a letter that my mind is missing you so much. My thoughts are all for you. I want to have your darshan. Please give me a time when I can come to Agra and have your darshan. He wrote a very sweet letter to his master, Swami Seth Sibdyal Singh, who lived in Agra. Postal service was very slow in those days. After a month, a reply comes. My son, Jamal Singh, I am very happy to get your letter, and I am very happy to know that your soul is now going around in the higher regions. Surprised at this letter, Jamal Singh said, my soul goes nowhere. This must be letter for somebody else. By mistake, he mailed it to me. So he wrote back. He said, beloved master, I have received your letter and you say that my soul is going in higher levels. I have seen nothing inside at all. My soul is going nowhere. All I felt was I was missing you so badly. And your thoughts were coming all the time that I just wanted to see you. And that's why I wrote that letter. I again beseech you, please give me a date when I can come and see you. I am missing you too much. After a month, another letter comes. My beloved son, Jamal Singh, I am very happy to receive your letter and to know that your soul is going around in the higher regions in Brahman. He said, this is surprising how the master can make a mistake twice. So, master wrote, if you want to come and see me, come and see me in the first week of next month. So prepared, he went there with both letters in his hand, and he arrived there and he presented those two letters. He says, Master, Swamiji, you sent me these two letters. And in both letters you say, my soul is roaming around in higher regions. I had no experience of any higher regions at all. And why did you say that it is meant for me? So Swamiji laughed and he said, let us go and meditate. He was sitting with about 10 or 12 of his disciples outside his room when they arrived, and he took Jamal Singh inside the room for about 20 minutes or half an hour. When they came out, in the presence of all the others, he said, Jamal Singh, now tell me, when I wrote those letters to you, was your soul not roaming around in the higher regions? He said, yes, Master, it was. No, Swamiji says, I am not asking whether your soul saw higher regions today. I want you to tell me whether your soul was roaming around in the higher regions when I wrote those letters to you. He said, yes, Master, I have seen, I was roaming around in those regions, but I have seen them today, that I was roaming around in higher regions at that time. Then Swamiji, talking to the other disciple there, said, sometimes when disciples have to do work outside, which requires a lot of their attention, but their seeking is very strong inside, the master can blindfold them so that the attention can be given to the karmic obligations that are to be done outside. The progress is still going on inside, and the inner experience is being taken blindfolded. When you remove the blindfolds and take them later on, they can remember exactly where they have been. This is what happened to Jamal Singh. But the fact that he was missing so much and he was having that feeling could not come if the soul was not ascending anywhere inside. So therefore, one has to remember that when we are, through our karmic obligations in this world, required to do so many things here, we have obligations to people, obligations to jobs, work, place. There are so many karmic obligations we have. Sometimes the masters will put the blinders so that we feel progress, we change, our attitude changes, life changes, so many other changes take place, and we don't know what they are due to because we haven't seen anything inside. So just because you have not seen something inside, especially if you have obligations outside, it does not mean there is no progress taking place. Progress is always taking place when you are seeking the master, you are missing him, and the love is developing, love and devotion is developing, progress is taking place. Sometimes they liken the spiritual path to digging in a mountain, a tunnel in a mountain. When you dig a tunnel in the mountain, you don't see any light. You keep on digging, you say, I'm wasting my time, I don't see any light, I keep on digging. But every time you dig, you make a progress. The light comes at the end of the tunnel. When you have dug the tunnel through, the light comes. And then we realize that all the digging we did was led to the light, not that it's the last moment that you dug into the tunnel and you got the light. So it's very similar because we are trapped in so much karmic activity, especially in these days. It's a different time. Every time is different. There was a time when there was not so much technology, not so much fast speed of work, not so many obligations, not so many distractions as we have today. So very often when this happens, people get little frustrated. I am not seeing anything, but the life is changing, and they notice that. Other people notice even more that the life has changed so much that how come you don't get angry like you used to? How come you are not so attached to those things? You become detached and you are smiling at things all the time. How has your attitude changed everything? It changes so in such a way that other people can observe faster than you can observe. So do not think that the only way of judging any spiritual progress is what you see in meditation. There's so many other changes that take place both inside and outside you, and your feelings are very different. So you are making progress all the time. Light will come. Some people have difficulty, say we can't hear the sound yet. Sound can be heard. Some people hear the sound straight away. And other people say, how could this person hear the sound right at the time of initiation, saw the light at the time of initiation? But people don't know that this work was done in a past life. This is not the first life when it's been initiated. Who is the perfect living master who says, I am your friend and take you back home? Is the master who initiates you in your final life when you will never come back again. Because you can have perfect living masters in previous lives too. Therefore, the masters who are perfect and are operating from all levels, when they initiate us, they also know whether you are on list A or list B. List A is that they will take you back in that very life, and list B is they have prepared you that no matter what your life is, no matter what your karma is, you will be taken back home. These are some of the details of these teachings and how they operate. The best thing is always go and check them out. Otherwise, they remain intellectual teachings, they remain just mental teachings. You should make them your personal teachings. Observe what happens to you. Observe what your progress in meditation is. Meditation, quality meditation, doing quality meditation, which means with intense love and devotion for the Master. Closing eyes, seeing the Master and intensely loving is very different from merely doing it as a chore. I have to complete my 2.5 hours, I am doing it. It's not the same thing. The more high quality meditation you do, the faster your progress will be. And the faster you'll be able to see things inside and outside, that the change has taken place in you. So that's why I wanted to mention to you that do not only regard that what you see outside or inside is going to tell you. Both go together. The changes in your life here and the changes that you see within yourself in meditation. But you should try to see one little step forward every day. And it is not necessary to leap into this, because leaping into an experience, I know personally my friends, some of the friends, one was so keen, I want to just see the creation of this universe. Master, give me the opportunity. Okay, all right. And when the soul went right to the universal mind, and the person saw that all the people was seeing all the friends were merely pieces, blocks, building blocks and put together and made into life, it was a huge shock. And the person had to come back and say, I need some psychiatric treatment now, because I am seeing that I was wasting my time loving all these people. They are just made up of blocks. And I saw myself. Everything that we are seeing here, if you see it in slow motion, because moving at top speed, so it looks like continuous life, it's like a movie. A movie looks like people moving, actually they're all still pictures. This life is also still pictures. They're moving much faster than in a movie. A movie relies upon the fact that our eyes, if some pictures move more than 16 frames per second, it becomes a continuous motion. The perception of a still picture lasts, and if the next picture comes within 1/16th of a second, it looks like it's a real transition of movement. We go and see movies, do you know they're all still pictures, one after the other? There's no movement in the film at all. Same thing here, there's no movement in this, yet we are seeing movement, because these move at 1 million pictures per second. The mind's persistence of vision is much greater and much rapid. So the mind is observing this life and observing conversations, sounds, everything. Today, you can put everything on a digital, you just put on a digital chip. I use my telephone, and do I realize that when I'm talking to somebody, these are all digital numbers coming through? I hear music, the digital numbers, 2 numbers, 0 and 1 being used. It's not even 0 and 1. It's nothing and 1, which means there's only one signal. There's only one digit being used. And when you play the digit, it's 1, and when you don't play it, 0. And the combination of these is making everything that we can today make through computers. This should give us an indication how this life is constructed. It's the same basis. There's no difference. So that is why what looks so real, movement, time, all these things are made up. And you can see them, how they're made up. But we don't care to see, because the projection from where these are being made up is inside in our mind, not outside. Outside is the picture. In a multi-dimensional screen, we are seeing all this. When we go to see a movie, we think the whole action is taking place on the screen. There's nothing on the screen. It's just a shadow. Where is the action taking place? If we turn around, we'll see the light of a projector coming from behind, and that's casting the shadow. We don't look back. We look in front. We want to see the movie. We don't want to see how it is made. If we were to look back, we'll see the movie is not only the light, it is the little films, and each frame is being put one by one. That if there was no movie, no film in it, there'll be blank light. That film is, and then we see the film is not real. It was prepared long ago. Somebody acted long ago, made a movie, and that movie is being shown, and we think it's real going on the screen. We laugh, we joke, we cry. We cry in movies. Particularly, I have a tendency to cry more in movies. I never cried outside, but I cry in movies. My children go with me. They carry extra handkerchief for me, for my tears, because I take the movie as more real. I think this is what is just being made out, projected now. This is a movie. The light of the soul comes through the film of the mind, the DVD of the mind, which has been prepared earlier, not now, and is shown to us on this 3-dimensional screen, and we think it's real life going on here. And all our attention is placed here. Nobody wants to go back and check how it is being made, how it is being shown. But you can. The method is available because where it's happening is all in this head of a physical body. So you can go back into the head and see how this is all operating. But take it easy, slow by slow, because if you take it too quickly, assuming this to be real, and suddenly you find it's not real, it can be a shock. That is why masters themselves say, go stage by stage, one little piece at a time, one little piece, then you get acclimatized to it, and then you know exactly what the truth is, then you enjoy it even more. You participate in a show, you are participating in a theater. You are an actor in the same movie. Your body itself becomes an actor in the same movie. Very interesting. It's the most interactive movie you can ever see, this life. But when you see life as an interactive movie, don't you think how big a change will be the attitude towards people? All actors, all going according to the script. Nobody is deviating from the script because they're taking it as real. When these actors act in our films, they want to act as much like the character as possible. There was a movie named Gandhi. Ben Kingsley of England, he acted as Gandhi in that. He was interviewed in New Delhi about his acting. He said, for 6 months, I did not allow them to shoot the movie till I could feel I was Gandhi. I would wake up and say, I am Gandhi, and act like Gandhi. When I felt I was Gandhi, I said, now shoot. That means the best movie is that where the actor actually feels he is the character. I think there is no better movie than the one we are watching in life. We all think we are what our actor role is. This is our acting role, and we are all assuming this is our real role. This is our real life. And we go exactly according to the script. What a beautiful way to make a movie. How can you improve this movie? It's the best one that you will ever see. And you are interactive in that by putting your body as an actor in that. You haven't put yourself in the movie. You put your physical body in the movie. You are still observing it from inside. You are still in the audience. But the audience happens to be hidden in one of the characters of the movie. Then people want to be told and they understand, oh, this is my creation of the mind. Okay, why can't I change it? Well, you can, but you're not making it here. You're not making it as a character. That's not your role. But if you go back there, go to the causal stage where you made it, change it, you'll change it. You can change the whole life from there and start living another life. Maybe you already done it. That's why you are here. How will you know it when you are in the act as an actor? So this is a very subtle subject, and the proof of all these things lies inside you. You want to prove, is it true what we are hearing? Go inside and check it out. There is no outside way to convince our mind that these things are actually what is explained to us, how they are being constructed, unless you go inside and see it for yourself. It's a very practical path. I mentioned to you that love and devotion is the most important factor. At the end, nobody can cross the mind without the pull of a perfect living master through his love and your devotion. Why we do use two words, love and devotion? Because love, we don't know what is love. We call attachments love. We attach ourselves to people, think of them, we think it's love. We get infatuated with people, we call it love. We have sex and we say we are making love. We use love in so many different ways, and we don't realize that love is something, a pull between one soul and another. It's a very different experience. We all have it, but we dismiss it. We put it down into mental things, mental activity. But pure love comes from a perfect living master and pulls us in a subtle way, because he's not pulling the body, he's not pulling the mind, he's pulling the soul. And that is what pulls us. Above the mind, above the causal plane of universal mind, there's no way to go except through love and devotion. But we can start the practice right here. You don't have to wait to go there and then say, now let's practice love and devotion. Every meditation that you do now can be done with the master's presence and love and devotion for that master. Now, so many of you have a master already. How many of you have a living master? Okay. Those who don't have some beloved. This time we are just practicing something. So those who have a master, picture the master and do your meditation, which means repetition of words by sitting in the center of the chair, the master in front of you, and you expressing your love but repeating the words at the same time. This can be achieved very easily if you practice. And those who are not having a master, please imagine some beloved whom you love so much that you can bring him into your meditation. And let's practice that now. Go back to your meditation chamber. Sit comfortably in your chair, relax. No tension or no stress, neither on the body nor on yourself. Just sit upright, relax, and in the inner chair also sit relaxed. And there repeat the words of mantra slowly, listening to them and seeing the master in front of you or the beloved in front of you. How many of you enjoyed this session of meditation? Very good. So you see, meditation is not such a boring thing as some people think. It can be a wonderful experience. And when you start having more experiences, it becomes very attractive. Ultimately, it will become so attractive, even the mind will not resist. And otherwise, the mind resists doing meditation. But when it becomes enjoyable, then the mind also starts enjoying. Mind also has a tendency to love good things, loves pleasure of all kinds. If pleasure can come inside, mind itself becomes a friend of ours. From an enemy, it turns into a friend. When we haven't had any experience, good experience inside, we have aches in the legs and we feel restless, and if we are chatting with friends, we don't have those aches and pains. But when we meditate, we have those aches and pains. It's the mind that does it. And therefore, if the mind starts getting good experiences, it becomes our friend and meditation becomes easier. So I'm very happy that we could have these experiences today. I'm going to break a little early for lunch today because the number of people who requested for one-on-one interviews has expanded since yesterday. So it's become a larger list. So in order to accommodate all people if possible, I will be breaking now for lunch and have about half an hour of interviews before I leave for lunch. So you take a break now and we'll reassemble at 3 o'clock again. Thank you very much.